Welcome back to Second and Short. It is Friday, March 1st, 2024. Our first episode of March, obviously. It's the first day of March. I'm joined by Luke, as always, to my left, and we've got quite a few things going on. Things a little exciting part of most off-season, or the off-season time, I guess. We got the 2024 NFL Combine officially underway. D-line, linebackers working out as we speak. As you're hearing this, defensive backs and tight ends are working out today, being Friday. QBs, wide receivers, and running backs all on Saturday. So that day is going to be fantastic to watch. And then we'll have the O-line on Sunday. NFL free agency starts in just under 2 weeks. With the start of spring training last week, we've gotten to see a whole lot of stuff in the MLB. We got the debuts of Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the Dodgers. He looked great. A new Atlanta Brave, Chris Sale. He also looked great. Today, we got the 2023 number 1 overall draft pick, Paul Skeens, whose first batter faced was the 2022 number 1 overall draft pick, Jackson Holliday. In this debut, he hit 102 miles per hour on his pitches. I think he had 2 that showed up 102, and those pitches were caught by the 2021 number 1 overall draft pick, Henry Davis. So lots of high-profile draft prospects playing in these games. We also got a nuke from the number 4 overall prospect, Chase DeLauder of the Cleveland Guardians. He is a dog. As well as a nuke from the richest MLB player in history, Mr. Shohei Ohtani. We got Byron Buxton making his return to center field for the first time in 554 days. That's insane. Wow. He hasn't played center field in that long. Among many other great things, I know Michael Harris has had a fantastic start to spring training. In soccer, though, the big news is that I'm an idiot, and once again, had us preview games that don't happen for another week, that being the Champions League matches that we previewed last week. I don't know why I can't look at a calendar. I don't know what my problem is, but we still have plenty to talk about with the Premier League, including the Manchester Derby this weekend. So a whole bunch to talk about. Luke, how are you feeling? We got a lot of fun things going on right now.
Man, you left out Juan Soto. He's been playing well, too.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Juan Soto. You know who that is?
I sure do.
But how about Yamamoto? I mean, goodbye, Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien, meet Yamamoto. Wow.
Wait, hold on.
That was a
Marcus Semien, like the
that was the first batter that he faced.
Oh, really?
He set him down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like struck him out. Yeah.
Nice.
Man.
Yeah, I haven't watched too much spring training. Typically with spring training, I'll pay attention to the Braves, which we played 2 games at the same time today. We did fantastic in both. So love to see that. But also, I just kind of pay attention to the Braves, and I typically wait until closer to the end of spring training and just watch a couple of videos or watch some recaps about what happened and who did well, who did bad, who we're going to see make opening day rosters and such. So haven't paid too much attention, but obviously I've seen the headlines. Very excited for the Combine. If you guys didn't hear Monday's episode from this week, this coming Wednesday, I will be putting out a first-round mock draft. It's going to take some work, some late nights working on that one because I haven't really put anything together. I've only read a couple of people's mock drafts, so it's going to be a full first-round mock draft. I might even do maybe a little video around it that I'll post just kind of separate from the podcast. But, we'll see. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself. So we'll see what happens.
Who are the Steelers taking?
Oh, it's tough because 2 guys that I thought they would be taking aren't working out at the Combine because they're both hurt. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he's the Illinois defensive tackle. Shoot. I can't remember his name. I think it's Isaiah Brown, maybe. I don't know. And then Cooper DeJean won't be working out until closer to the draft. But those are definitely 2 guys that I've been looking at for the Steelers. But like I said, everybody will know on Wednesday when I post my mock draft. Luke, anything else before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes.
No, I'm ready to preview the AFC South, man.
I am super excited, and along with we're not previewing the AFC South, but we are recapping the AFC South.
Review.
Sorry.
We
So we've got our AFC South season grades. That series continues. For the MLB, we're starting up divisional previews. So the way it's going to work, me and Luke are going to do the AL divisions for the next 3 weeks. Me and Colin are going to do the NL divisions, and then we'll do awards predictions, and then maybe just one more like preview type video or type segment before the season starts, which I believe is on March 28th or 29th. So we're getting there. It's real close. We've also got the Premier League weekend to talk about. We had some interesting results throughout the week. We've got some interesting matchups this weekend. And, of course, we'll round it out with questions time, which we actually have one question from Ethan. He loves to do just one question when he posts. And then, of course, our questions from Nathan. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into the AFC South, because this was a fun division this year to watch and to follow along to the title race especially. You really had 3 teams in it all the way down to the final seconds of Week 18. So this was a fun one to watch. So in case you haven't listened to the AFC West, first of all, why don't you just go back and listen to it, then come back over here. But the explanation, we're doing academic grading scale, minus regular, plus letter grades. We'll talk about what they did well, what they did poorly, assign them a grade. We'll talk about some players, some stats. I got a lot of stats this time around.
Nice.
Or at least rankings in statistics. I don't have the exact stats written down for them. But we'll start with the losers of the division, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, they struggled all year long. The Titans are one of those teams where they're super boring to watch. Honestly, they have talent, but I would say overall boring. But they're not as bad as what you would think they would be.
Yes.
Is kind of interesting with the Tennessee Titans. They were 27th in points per game at 17.9, but 26.6 points allowed. They were 16th in the NFL. So on average, you could technically look at that as losing every single game by around like 4 or 5 points. But they were first in red zone defense, which I thought was very interesting, being a 6-11 team or whatever they finished. They were dead last in interceptions, 31st in takeaways, only 29th in passing yards per game, which is expected. But I will add that I like Will Levis for this team a lot, and they have one more year of D-Hop and Will Levis together, which I think is going to bode well for them. But the biggest thing for them going into the offseason and, kind of a story in the regular season is Derrick Henry. We saw a Derrick Henry this year have games where he would have 16 rush attempts for like only 29 yards. That happened a couple times. So whether that's age or the team that he's on, I really have no idea. And they may not even bring him back this year. I know the Titans haven't ruled out that possibility, but he pretty much retired from or said he was going to leave the Titans his last game with them. They were 1-5 in their division as far as divisional games, which, that's never, ever going to be good. So overall, if I can go ahead and give my letter grade, I gave them a D.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have a laundry list of stats that they were very bad at this year, and one stat that they were very good at. So we'll go through all of these bad stats, and I'll go pretty quickly. You already brought this one up, but 27th in points per game. They were 28th in red zone touchdown percentage. They were 28th in total yards per game, 26th in yards per play, 28th in third down conversion percentage, 29th in passing yards per game, 28th in sacks allowed per game, 30th in opponent completion percentage, and 31st in takeaways per game, which you also mentioned. The one stat I have that they did good in, they were 5th in yards allowed per rush. So the rush defense was still there. Jeffrey Simmons doing his thing. Rest of the team, not quite. I will say, Will Levis, you brought up they maybe found their franchise quarterback. I think that's the exact way to put it. I think we saw good things out of Will Levis. We saw promising things. We know that long term, he's a much better option than Ryan Tannehill, but we don't
For sure.
know if he's really like a franchise quarterback just yet. I think we'll need to see a full season where he's the starter 17 times, and then we'll have a better idea of where they're at. And then, kind of like you said, I think a disappointing player this season was Derrick Henry. Maybe not on a disappointing level like some other running backs in the NFL, but on a Derrick Henry scale, this was a disappointing season. Like you said, the
Yeah.
inconsistency was the big part. He had a couple of amazing games, and then, like you brought up, he'd have games where he had like 16, 16 attempts for 9 yards. Like things like that
Yeah.
weigh you down quite a bit. Like he could have led the league in rushing this year, and he didn't because of how many bad performances he had. And considering this team, I believe they're so I talked about their rushing yard or like yards per attempt, I think was one of the things I talked about. I can't remember.
I thought you
No.
mentioned something like
Uh
that.
no, okay, I was thinking of a different team. But yeah, this was a very inefficient rushing offense. A lot of carries just for nothing. And it didn't help that Tajay
Yeah.
Spears wasn't much better when he got his time, because he actually did get a decent amount of opportunities out of the backfield. He still wasn't great either. Yeah, I ended up giving the Titans a D minus. I think I was gonna give them a D, and then I remembered that they fired Mike Vrabel,
They deserve that.
so they
They
got the D
deserve that.
minus.
Yeah, and another player, I like how you brought up, Derrick Henry being disappointing, as well as I did. But another player that I wanted to highlight is I remember when we did our top 10 tight ends of not last season, but the
Yes,
season before, and you brought
yes,
up Okonkwo. He was really, really, really quiet this year. I think he was second on their team in yards, but that's not really saying much when you look at how good their passing game was, which it wasn't.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okonkwo was a very disappointing player. I really wanted to see more out of him, especially with the addition of D Hop, maybe, getting some coverage away from him. But Okonkwo just didn't really play out kind of like how you or I wanted to.
Yeah, I had him as one of my surprise or like guys to watch going into this season for this team, and there wasn't much to watch with him. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that one. But let's go ahead and talk about the Indianapolis Colts, because honestly, the Titans are the only team in this whole division where I didn't think they were very good. I think the Colts were one of the best, if not the best, team in this division. I'm not going to say they're the best. I think we already know that, but
I was about to say.
they came third in this
Yeah.
division. They could have been first. It's crazy.
They could have.
Um, so I'll just throw out a couple of stats. Some things they were very good at, putting up points, and all of this without Anthony
Ooh.
Richardson. Their fifth overall pick. To do this despite him not being there was huge. They were 10th in rushing yards per game and 10th in yards per attempt, despite Jonathan Taylor missing a bunch of games at the beginning of the season. He missed a couple games late in the season with injury, and you still had a great rushing offense. That's a testament to the offensive line and just kind of their whole scheme and their play calling with that new offense with, Shane Steichen as their head coach. They've done a great job. I love what the Colts are doing. They're heading in the right direction. There is a couple things they struggled with, and I think this kind of goes with the fact that maybe they didn't have their best options in the game at all times. That's 26th in third down conversion and 24th for the defense, 24th in yards allowed per game. The Colts played a lot of high scoring, close, down to the wire games, and a lot of times they lost. So I think it's just a matter of not always having your best options on the field. But I will say that for the most part, a lot of the guys that filled in were the more surprising good performances from that team. Guys like Gardner Minshew and Zach Moss really carrying their load for this team. On the defensive side, somebody I was super happy with was Kenny Moore. I think he's emerged as one of the best
Oh
in the
yeah,
league at his position.
big time.
But on the defense as well, I think their most disappointing player of this team was Shaq Leonard, who got cut halfway through the season. Like
Yeah,
that,
I'm still looking for him.
yeah.
I don't know where
I
he's
I
at.
guess he's a
I mean,
Philadelphia Eagle. That's where he signed for the remainder of the season. He still did nothing.
but you know what? They had Zaire Franklin, who had a
Yeah.
great, great year with the Colts. And yeah, they figured out something interesting with Zach Moss and then Jonathan Taylor when he came back. I mean, shit, I think it's safe to say that some games that Zach Moss and JT had together, they were rivaling Jameer Gibbs
Oh
and
yeah,
Jordan Montgomery for running back duo. They were fantastic. I think we saw Michael Pittman step up a lot too. He
agreed.
definitely is a top guy in the league that I don't think gets enough recognition. Like you said, the Colts finished 9-8 and had to battle. They were constantly battling something throughout the entire season. It sucked losing Anthony Richardson, but Gardner Minshew, I mean, did more than stepped up for that
Yeah,
team. God forbid, if something happened to Anthony Richardson that was like horrible, Gardner Minshew could honestly be your starting quarterback, and you could build around him.
yep.
That was the kind of performance he gave me. I couldn't find many rankings on the Colts like I did the other three teams, but they were 28th in points against, like you said, high scoring on both sides, a lot of close games for them. So I actually gave the Colts a C plus. They did the absolute best they could with the cards that they were dealt, and that's sometimes in the NFL that's all you can do. They
Yeah,
were very impressive all season long. I'm really happy with how they played.
for sure. Overall, I gave them
Yeah.
a B minus.
Oh,
So I think
I like that.
they were very good. They literally could have made the playoffs if they threw to the right guy instead of I think it was Trace Sermon they threw to on that final play that would have kept their season alive, and he dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
that kind of killed him. If they would have made the playoffs, like that would have been huge.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well let's talk about Jacksonville. This was interesting. I'd say I think they were maybe the most disappointing of this division because of the
Maybe in
expectation.
the whole NFL.
Maybe, yeah, because they simply just weren't good at a lot of things that are important. My biggest one, they were 21st in red zone touchdown percentage. That's abysmal for this kind of offense where you have weapons at all three wide receiver positions. Granted, these guys were out every other week. It seemed like it was like 1 week you got
Yeah.
the whole three. The next week you've just got Calvin Ridley. The next week you've got Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, but no Calvin Ridley. Like it was a mess with that. But they
Yeah.
were also 30th in yards per rush. That is horrible for Travis Etienne and the little bit that we saw from Tank Bigsby. Like last year, let me pull up his stats. Travis Etienne was amazing last year, especially in yards per carry. This season, the complete opposite. Yeah, last year in 17 games played, so the same sample size, he had 220 carries for 1,125 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. This season, with 47 more carries, he only had 1,008 yards and had 3.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So he took, look, he was still a 1,000-yard rusher, but he took a tremendous step back from last year.
Yeah, and that's not. I'm gonna keep letting you go with your points, but I also had a lot on Travis Etienne. Only just broke 1,000 rushing yards too by only 6 or 7 yards, I believe. I
Yeah.
think he was at 1,007. And that was not what I wanted to see out of him. I wanted to see an explosive year out of guys like him and Kenneth Walker. I would put in that category too. But yeah, I like how you brought up Travis Etienne. I think they were 24th in rushing yards per game this season.
Yeah.
Not very good.
Yeah, but I will say they were still getting passing yards despite the fact that, you had Trevor Lawrence go down for, he was out for one full game. He was pretty banged up in a couple others. You were still ninth in passing yards per game. And one thing that I thought they were really good at was third down defense. They were eighth in opponent third down percentage, which is huge. They were tied seventh in takeaways per game, so they were getting the ball back. I think a lot of that on defense, you got to give it to Josh Allen. This guy was special this season. We already knew how good he was going into it, but this year he showed us something else. And of course, Foyesade Luakan just tackling everybody. 111 solo tackles for him this season. And just down the list on the defense, you had three guys that had over 100 total tackles. Now, that means guys are getting the ball in their hand, but it also means the guys are just all over it, and they're doing a fantastic job. But yeah, Josh Allen's got to be my biggest standout guy. 17 and a half sacks is amazing. On the offensive side, the guy that I was super happy with was Evan Ingram. He was literally the safety blanket of all safety blankets for Trevor Lawrence. 114 receptions this season. That's crazy, considering, yes, he was first in targets. He only had 7 more targets than Calvin Ridley, and Calvin Ridley only had 76 receptions.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane what Evan Ingram was able to do this season. So I got to shout him out because at times we thought he was going to be a bust, but he's certainly turned things around.
Yeah, shit. I would take Evan Ingram over George Kittle.
Yeah.
Darren Waller. I mean, that guy, he needs his flowers.
I don't know
for
about
sure,
Kittle.
but I'm going to get into.
I don't know about Kittle. I'd take him over Waller, not over Kittle.
Yeah. Yeah, and really the only thing that I want to add to Jacksonville, and this is what knocked them so bad for me, is you beat the Steelers, and then you have this linebacker picked up a terrible towel.
Yeah, that is a good point.
And then, 2 weeks later, your season's fucking over because you were 6-2 going into your Week 9 bye, and you finished the season 3-6.
Yeah.
Yes, I gave the Colts a C+. The Jacksonville Jaguars get a C from me. That end of the season for them just wrecks everything.
Yep.
In my opinion, they were worse than the Colts.
Yeah, I gave him a C as well. I think Trevor Lawrence kind of disappointed me a lot this season. Only 21 touchdowns and 14 interceptions is horrible for Trevor Lawrence. He still had over 4,000 yards. He did things well this season. An 88.5 QB rating isn't bad, passer rating isn't that bad. But when you throw in the 14 picks and only 21 touchdowns, considering the receiver core and the tight end that he had, you got to be getting more passing touchdowns. And with how talented of a quarterback he is, he should not be throwing 14 picks.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better.
All right. Well, then let's talk about those division champions, the Houston Texans, because goddamn did they just knock my socks off this year. Let's start with the things they did bad, though. 28th in rushing yards per game, 29th in yards per rush, and then on the defensive side, 30th in opponent completion percentage. So I think overall they were great. And they made up for their shortcomings in a lot of spots. I will give them that because they're good things they did. They were 8th in passing yards per game with a rookie quarterback and a bunch of young wide receivers. They were 4th in yards per attempt, once again, with a rookie quarterback and some young wide receivers. And then on the defensive side, they're 6th in opponent third down conversion and 2nd in yards allowed per rush. That is the big stat for me. The running defense of this team was outstanding. And a lot of that goes to Will Anderson. A lot of that to Jonathan Grenard, who was such a fantastic surprise player for me with this Texans defense. But just so many other guys on this team that just stepped up. Blake Cashman was awesome. Christian Harris had a great season. Like, so many guys stepped up on this team that I didn't expect. And they certainly got their flowers, and we saw some amazing performances, even in the postseason. That game against the Browns, dude. Oh, my goodness. They were definitely on some other things there. But, my surprise players list is rather lengthy. It's essentially the entire offense. C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Devin Singletary. And then on the defensive side, Will Anderson Jr. and Jonathan Grenard kind of headline my list there. Disappointing players wise, I think there's one that's very obvious. Damon Pierce.
Oh my God, I can't wait till we get to my notes on this guy.
And then on the defensive side, a guy that I wasn't too happy with was actually Derek Stingley. I think he could have been much better. I know he did have 5 interceptions, but it felt like he was getting burnt a lot. And considering 30th in opponent completion percentage, he certainly wasn't the best, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans, you may have already said it, but 7th in passing, 22nd in rushing. That is going to be the biggest thing for me with this team going forward is they have to figure out this run game. And with the season that Damon Pierce had, he may not even be the guy anymore. It was that
Yeah.
bad. They were 11th in points against. I mean, you have a high-powered offense that's top of the league in points against on defense. That's how you make the playoffs right there.
Yeah.
But like you said, they were 23rd in passing yards against, but they were 6th in rushing. So, get a new running back, get some new secondary guys in there. Shit, you might have a Super Bowl in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and this is the free
Seriously.
agency class to go after a running back. For sure. You got
Definitely.
way too many
Definitely.
options to not go out and get one.
I wouldn't be mad if they did that because Damon Pierce, as much as I honestly am about to dog on this guy, he may still have trade value
Yeah.
on a different team. But let me put this in a perspective for you so all the viewers know how bad Damon Pierce was. So, first of all, should I just start with CJ Stroud had more rushing touchdowns than him?
That's a good place to start.
CJ Stroud had 3. Damon Pierce had 2. I'm going to break it down. Here we go. So 14 games for Damon Pierce. He was a little bit unhealthy, which may have been the cause of all this. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, 145 attempts, 416 rushing yards in 14 games. He averaged 29.7 yards per game. And like I said, only had 2 touchdowns. He's brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. And then Devin Singletary comes in. He plays all 17, 216 attempts, almost 900 yards. He missed out by 2 yards, 52.8 yards per game,
Yeah.
but a 4.2 rushing average. I think Damon Pierce is like a 2.7 rushing average as far as
2.9.
yards per carry. 2.9, there you go. And then Devin Singletary had 4 touchdowns. And CJ Stroud, going back to him, on 39 attempts, was able to score 3 touchdowns. So,
Yeah.
I mean, all to say that their run game was literally the reason that games were kept close against them, because you have a rookie quarterback who can sling it and loves throwing it to players on his team. He does not throw it to the wrong jersey ever. And yeah, that's why I'm gonna give the Houston Texans like a B.
Yeah.
B plus. We'll say B plus.
I give him a B plus because of the playoffs. I think, I could probably reason myself to give them a B, even, but I don't think they quite got to that A minus level. I wouldn't call it an A because there's still things to iron out, like we talked about. The run game, certainly an issue, and the secondary was a bit of a problem. But overall, they were fantastic. They totally blew me away. 10-7. They win the AFC South. They win a playoff game. But ultimately, they fell short in the playoffs. This is a team to look out for going forward because they got a lot of young guys. The thing is 2 years, 3 years down the road, they're going to have to start paying some guys. And I'm interested to see how they go with that, because if Nico Collins and Tank Dell stay on this trajectory, you're not going to be able to pay both of them if you're paying C.J. Stroud the same year. Think about it. Tank Dell and C.J. Stroud are going to be eligible for extensions at the same time. And I'll tell you what, C.J. Stroud is not expendable. You can't get rid of C.J. Stroud. So I'm interested to see where this goes, because you're also, if Derek Stingley continues to be, an above average or possibly great corner, you're going to have to pay him in about 2 years. You're going to have to pay Nico Collins in about a year or two. So I'm very interested. And of course, Will Anderson, Tank Dell, and CJ Stroud all being in the same draft class means they're all eligible for extensions at the same time. And we've seen the defensive linemen that can sack the quarterback, they get paid. So Will Anderson's going to get his bag too.
Yeah, even guys like Jalen Peachtree, one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL right now. He's going to probably want some money.
For sure.
They're going to have to make some decisions, but that also means, the talent will be spread across the NFL.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see if any of these guys go to different teams and how well they do over there. But for right now, the Texans are fantastic. They just got to get this running game figured out.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what they do going forward. I think, we could also talk about how good their first-year head coach was. DeMeco Ryans. Like, the 2 first-year head coaches in this division were the 2 best coaches in this division, possibly 2 of the top 10 coaches in the league this season, I'd be willing to say, because of what we saw from them in the endless roadblocks that they were able to pass. Like, with obviously the Colts, you lost your franchise
Yeah.
quarterback in like the fourth week of the season, and for the Texans, you had so many guys underperform that you needed guys to perform well. And I know it seems like C.J. Stroud, kind of was the firepower for them, but you also got to remember that C.J. Stroud got hurt. He missed 2 games this season, and they were able to pull out a victory in one of those. So, like, you got to commend these guys for getting these teams, getting this team and getting these players to step up in big situations because we were certainly aware that Case Keenum and Davis Mills were not going to cut it based off of what we saw from them in their few appearances this season.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up the AFC South. We'll have the AFC North next week on Friday. I think that'll do it for that. So why don't we hop into some baseball talk for now? I'm so excited for everything to get started in the MLB, and it's kind of already underway. But let's talk a little bit about the AL West is where we'll start. We'll do the Central next week, and then, of course, the East after that. The reason I chose AL for me and you and NL for me and Colin is so that both of you guys get a chance to talk about your favorite teams.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Because, look, I like everybody's teams for the most part, unless you're a Phillies fan or a Mets fan. So I can get on board with anything. And for now, let's start with the AL West. Let's start with standings predictions. You want to go top to bottom or bottom to top?
I'm gonna go bottom to top.
Okay.
Give me to start out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So from bottom to top, I have the Athletics, Angels, Rangers, Mariners, Astros.
We have identical standings predictions.
I figured we might.
Yeah.
I really figured we might. I know you and I are both high on Seattle.
Definitely. I'm big time for Seattle. I love what their rotation could look like. Going into this season, and there's still guys out there they could go get and add to this rotation or trade off and get to add to this rotation. So I love what they've got going. They've brought in some great players. And I think, overall, the big thing is that they need to go out and get a third baseman before this season starts. And there just happens to be one of the best defensive third basemen of our generation sitting there as a free agent right now. So I'm excited to see what the Mariners can do. That's why I've got them in second, because they're not quite the Astros yet. I trust the Astros more to just go out and win games in the regular season than I do the Mariners, and then I do the Rangers as well. You might be asking, hey, why the hell are the Rangers third in this division? Probably not going to make the playoffs in that position. Well, I don't think they got much better. They won a World Series last year for sure. You still got to get better because guys are leaving. At this point, there's no chance Jordan Montgomery comes back. You've got long-term injuries still from Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, who are going to miss significant time. And
they're not going to be back until like midsummer.
Yeah, so you're going to start off the season with like Nathan Eovaldi and like John Gray headlining your rotation, and I think Eovaldi can be good, but I'm not placing high expectations on him yet.
No, I'm not either.
And then, of course, for your bottom two, the Angels are just a weird case. I would say it's a rebuild, but you still have Mike Trout, and you still have Anthony Rendon, but you do have some promising young players. Guys like Zach Neto, who is obviously one of my favorites. I couldn't stop talking about how good his glove is in the infield. He's a guy I love watching. You got a guy who I'll talk about when we talk about some Rookie of the Year candidates, Nolan Shanuel, the first baseman. This guy's got big-time pop, and he's got a great glove at first base. He could be AL Rookie of the Year. He's on this Angels team, and you've got a brand-new coaching staff headlined by one of my favorite coaches ever in Ron Washington as their manager. I think there's the potential for them to start something here, but it's not going to be anything better than, maybe what we've seen in the past.
I love I love how you talked about the Angels just there because they are such an easy team to shit on, with all the talent they've had and not been able to show it. But for me, going into 2024, it's can their vets stay healthy? And like you said, can those rookies like Noah Shanuel step
Yeah.
up? That's really going to be it. And like, you had guys last season, like Brandon Drury is going to be back. He was solid last year for him. But it's just, like I said, is can Rendon stay healthy? Can Mike Trout stay healthy? And can these rookies step up is really going to make or break the Angels, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And then for the Oakland Athletics, they're there.
Brent Rooker.
For sure. Yeah, Brent Rooker. Awesome. Awesome guy.
Esteury Ruiz is pretty
Yep.
fast.
I think he is going to lead the league in stolen
that's about
bases. I'll go ahead and make that prediction. Yeah,
fair.
I just can't get
I'm gonna be
behind.
honest, I don't know anybody on their rotation.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know
I
any
was
of their
about to bring
pitchers.
that up. I can't get behind a rotation headlined by Paul Blackburn. Yeah,
That's
it's
right, Paul Blackburn.
not good. That's a good starting point. Is that it's not good. Yeah, there is guys on this team that I like though. Like I said, I like Esteury Ruiz. I like Brent Rooker. I like obviously Shea Langoliers is awesome as a catching a young catcher. Ryan Noda is a pretty good first baseman that has a little bit of upside there. But it's also the Athletics. I'm not going to put much value in what they're doing right now until they get to Vegas.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. Is they're saving money for Vegas right now? They're saving it all for the move.
Oh yeah, but it doesn't matter
Oh,
because
man.
Luke is still going to call them Oakland.
Oh my goodness, exactly. And my camera
I
has
noticed.
freaking. I bumped the cord every time.
All right.
This
Well,
is
while you're figuring that out, I want to talk about the Astros a little bit and why I think a little more in depth on why I think they'll be the best team in this division. It comes down to experience and it comes down to depth. This is a team with so many great players that can just fill in whenever they need to. Obviously, you have a pretty solid starting rotation. Justin Verlander's out for the moment. There's your camera, but
there we go.
But he's going to be back pretty soon. I think he's like day to day at the moment. But you still have Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, who have certainly showed some great things, at least in the regular season. You have the young pitcher Hunter Brown, who's awesome. And then you've got JP France on this rotation. That fifth spot is up for grabs, but you also added the best closer in the league in Josh Hader, which is a big deal. That's a huge acquisition. But you have young players like Yenier Diaz, who I really like as their catcher, who I think, going forward could be a huge impact player. I can't imagine we'll see as bad of a Jose Abreu as we saw last year. I don't think it's possible for him. Obviously, a Jose Altuve that just got a 5-year extension at like 36 years old.
What?
Yeah, I think it was 5 years.
Wow.
Just a couple of weeks ago. He's 33, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a 5-year extension. You've got Alex Bregman, who I think is going to bounce back big this year. Jeremy Pena, I think, last year seemed like a textbook sophomore slump. I think this year he improves. And then, in the outfield, it's mainly about the defense in the outfield. Chas McCormick and Jake Myers both play a great defense in the outfield. They also offer a little bit of hitting, not too much. And then, of course, Kyle Tucker is a star, if you haven't realized. And then Yordan Alvarez. What else to say about him, man?
Yeah, and I kind of have similar notes on the Astros. Like, look, you have a Jose Altuve who proved he can come back from injuries late in his career, which, I think kind of goes along with that extension. It makes sense for him. Kyle Tucker can only get better. I think he could be AL MVP. I really do this season. I'm a big fan of Kyle Tucker. Not the team, but Kyle Tucker. But, kind of like what you touched on, I think Pena and Abreu need to step up.
Sure.
They need to come back if they're going to win a World Series. And also, their pitchers not named Verlander also need to step up because I like Javier. I like Framber Valdez. What just happened?
Sorry, I'm watching the combine, and Muhammad Kamara from Colorado State just ran a 4.58 as a defensive lineman on the 40. That's, wow.
Damn.
Holy shit. Okay,
but
continue. Sorry.
That's pretty fast. But they don't Valdez and Christian Javier, they don't give me ace vibes. Not yet, at least.
No,
And I
no,
think
not
they
yet.
need to step up because Verlander, he's only got so much left in the tank. They need to step up. And Jordan Alvarez is absolutely elite. He's gonna,
Yes.
continue to be elite
Yeah.
for his career, and that's really all I have on the Astros. I just, bottom line, I think it's gonna come down to, can Pena and Abreu step up, and can their starting pitchers not named Verlander step up?
Yeah. Obviously, Justin Verlander is going to go out there and do his thing. Maybe age catches up to him, but it hasn't. I can say
Yeah.
that for a fact. Age has not caught up to the 41-year-old Justin Verlander yet. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we get from him. And like I said, I went on and on about this Astros team and the upside of them. So let's talk about dark horses to win the division. I think there's only two other contenders in this division other than the Astros, of course. It's the Mariners and then the Rangers. I think, oddly enough, I think the Rangers come in third. I think they have a better chance to win this division than Seattle.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I think with Texas, they're so much more volatile. I think it's pretty clear what we'll get from Seattle, and that's an 80 to 95 win team, or maybe 85 to 95 win team. But the Rangers could be a 70 win team or a 100 win team, and I have no idea.
That's fair. I think it's going to be about how they start the season without Scherzer and DeGrom.
Yes,
For me,
for sure.
is a big thing for the Rangers going into it. But my dark horse is the Seattle Mariners because I still think that the Rangers could be better than Seattle, kind of like with what you said. But I like their young arms, like Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, and
Yes.
Emerson. And I
Big time.
can't read
Emerson
my
Hancock.
own handwriting here. Emerson Hancock. That is not what I wrote. Oh my god! Wow. Anyway, those three guys are all promising arms that are going to fight for their last two spots in the rotation because you got guys like Castillo and Kirby that are going to be there, and they're both absolutely wonderful. I also wanted to highlight in last season, July they were 17-9. August they were 21-6. The Mariners were.
Yeah.
September is what really killed them, and I think if they can find that consistency like they did in July and August, which I think they will in 2024. They very much could be better than the Astros, in my opinion, which is crazy to say.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt this again. A guy that you're certainly going to be seeing on my mock draft next week, Chop Robinson from Penn State. He just ran a 4.48. Oh my God, that was insane. Okay, but I definitely agree with you on your points there. I think the Rangers are just so weird to figure out. Like, can they win the division? Certainly. Can they be extremely bad? Yeah, they can.
I think there's a world if the Angels are healthy, they can come in third and the Rangers come in fourth. I would go that far.
I agree. I think the Angels might be the most volatile of this because they could win 50 games. They could win 80 games. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I trust Ron Washington and Eric Young to just coach these guys and do a great job with it. So yeah, there's tons of upside there. I think for the Rangers, though, I think the big struggle that we're still going to see because they still haven't addressed it is the bullpen. You added Kirby Yates, who was not very good for the Braves last season. You still have guys like Josh Spores and Jose Leclerc, but no more Aroldis. So I guess you lose a little bit of inconsistency, but also you lose the ability to have an all-time closer in that bullpen. And I still think that's going to be a struggle for them this year. And that's why I can't trust them to go out and win this division. But they obviously could because they just won the World Series.
Yeah, and another point that I want to add, since we're having a pretty good conversation, is Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, are they really going to be able to replicate what they did last season?
That's a fantastic question. I think Corey Seager can, for sure. But if we've seen anything from Marcus Semien, there's ebbs and flows to him every year. He is just up and down throughout his career, and maybe this is a down year. Maybe it's not. And I would hope for it not to be because I'm here to watch the best baseball I can. But
for sure,
I think the good thing about where Marcus Semien is now in his career is, he's 33 years old. time can catch up, but he has the guys outside of just him on his team that can produce. Because when he was in Oakland, you had Matt Chapman and Matt Olson, both very young at the time. Same with Marcus Semien being pretty young at the time. He goes to Toronto. He was good. The rest of his team wasn't. It was pretty bad years outside of Bo Bichette on that team. And now we look at a Marcus Semien that, is surrounded with the best shortstop by a country mile in the MLB with Corey Seager. You have, great players like Josh Young and Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim as well in this offense. You have the prospect of Evan Carter playing as well as he can, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a scary one to see. And so I think he gets a little bit of comfort. It's not just him creating offense anymore. And so he can just continue to bat, second or fifth in this lineup and produce. I think there's a whole lot less pressure on him to generate runs at this point in his career because he has guys around him that can also do the same thing.
Very fair point. Damn, this is a good division to cover. A lot
It
of
certainly
moving
is.
pieces here.
Yeah. I think we're just I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. The AL Central is gonna fucking suck. So we're making up for it here. The East
Yeah.
is gonna be great too. So
Yeah.
this is fun, but let's talk Cy Young candidates. I think there's quite a few, and most of them are on the Mariners.
Yeah. I actually had more from the Rangers than I did anybody else.
Really, I've only got one Ranger, only because of the injuries.
Yeah, I didn't account for the injuries.
So my Mariners are Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Bryce Miller. Actually, I didn't include Logan Gilbert just because he's far too inconsistent up to this point in his career. He's no longer a prospect that still has time. He's like 24, 26 now. You got to buck up.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I like that.
So, and for George Kirby and Bryce Miller, they are young guys. And George Kirby made my top 10 starting pitchers this year. I think he made yours as well.
Yes, he was my number 10.
Extremely effective. It was big what he did this season. I think if he takes another step, he might be taking the number one spot in that rotation from Luis Castillo, who was also fantastic last year. So
yeah, big time.
I think the Mariners are in a fantastic situation where they've got 5 bona fide starters and they've got 1 budding from the minor leagues. Yeah, it's a good situation to be in. I felt it as a Braves fan before where it's like, yeah, we have our 5, but there's like 6 guys trying to get up too. So I get where they're at right now. And then for the Rangers, I've got Eovaldi, and that's all. I just don't think that I don't think DeGrom and Scherzer are going to have enough time to put together a Cy Young winning, season. And then for the Astros, I've only got Framber. I do think that Justin Verlander is going to be he's going to regress a little bit. 41 is old as hell to be a starting pitcher still doing your thing. It is very difficult. You don't see a lot of them do it. Yes, of course, there are the likes of Nolan Ryan who went deep into his 40s and amongst many others, but this is a different time, man. Like the strain that these guys are putting on their body, literally just to create like spin rate, is ridiculous. So, I do think that regression is heading Justin Verlander's way. Luckily, it's only starting now at 41 instead of where most guys have it, which is like 35. So
good point.
I think Framber's really the only guy I could see doing it for the Astros, and it's really just because he's been there before. He's been like a Cy Young candidate before, and he still has that potential now.
Yeah, so I had all the guys that you had except for Bryson Miller. I don't think he has enough yet to put together a Cy Young season.
Fair,
but the other 2 guys, Castillo and Kirby, 100%. Have to be contenders there. I kept Verlander in my list, but I also had Framber, and then I had the DeGrom, Scherzer, Eovaldi trio there. So that was my Cy Young candidate. So we agreed on a lot.
For sure. I think this one's going to be an interesting conversation. Let's talk MVP candidates, and it's not particularly I guess when we do this, sometimes we can think of it as like these are the guys in this division that can win this award. Sometimes I'm kind of looking at it as like this is just going to be the best at his, whatever, either hitter or
Yeah.
pitcher in this division. So with the Cy Young candidates, I was more looking at like who could actually win a Cy Young. Whereas for the MVPs, I'm more looking at who could be the best player in this division. Obviously, if you're the best player in this division, there's a good chance you're going to be an MVP finalist because two of them were last year.
Yeah. And they're on the same team.
Yeah. So obviously, Corey Seager, Yordan Alvarez, and Julio Rodriguez kind of are the spotlight players here because they're the guys that should be in those conversations all year. But Marcus Semien could certainly be back in the conversation. If he continues to stay hot, Kyle Tucker can always be in that conversation just because of the consistency. Yep. He is possibly the model of consistency in the league at the moment. And then, of course, Mike Trout. You can't count out Mike. No, unfortunately.
You cannot.
He could always – they could win 50 games, and he could be the best player in the league that year. And I'm pretty sure that's happened. So
yeah, probably has.
And then I also want to just give some love to Alex Bregman, who I think this season is going to be kind of a bounce back. He's been a little bit down the last 2 years, I'd say, but I think this is a bounce back for sure, like a full out bounce back. And then Adolis Garcia certainly has the potential to be up there at any time.
Oh, I didn't have Adolis Garcia, but I'm going to go ahead and write him in as if it matters. I definitely like him on my list. I had Yordan Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Mike Trout, Julio Rodriguez, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager. I went ahead and threw in Brent Rooker just as the single best player on the Athletics, and then I just added Adolis Garcia. So my thing with Alex Bregman, and I don't know if I'm in the minority in this opinion, but he, to me, is an elite support player on this Astros team. I don't think he is. He's just another guy on that team because I don't think he even compares to Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, and Jose Altuve, in my opinion.
I think if he has a good season, he's as good as any of them. We've seen some stellar seasons out of Alex Bregman in his career. He's been an MVP finalist in his career.
Has he really?
I believe so. Let me, fact check myself real quick. Yes, he was second in MVP voting in 2019. He was fifth in MVP voting in 2018. So he was a finalist 2019. If we see that kind of Alex Bregman, the Alex Bregman that can have an above 1,000 OPS in a season and, also have one of the best on-base percentages in the season. Like in 2019, the one category he led the MLB in was walks. That was it.
Oh. Wow.
And that was a big season. That was the season where we saw the debuts of Shohei Ohtani and Ronald Acuna and Juan Soto. That was a huge year for this league. And Alex Bregman was one of the best. He had 112 RBIs that season. He hit 41 homers and 37 doubles. The year before that, he had 51 doubles. Like, this guy can genuinely be one of the best. But since the COVID year, he just hasn't quite been the same. He's not pushing like 285 batting average like he was prior. He's now more looking in like the 260s, 270s, which needs to be fixed. Because his best asset was the fact that he was putting the ball in play whenever he stepped up, and now the strikeouts have gone up a little bit, which I don't think is a huge issue, but when you look back, he was kind of in this same area, but like 87 strikeouts last year is a little bit out of the ordinary for him. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting on base. He used to be so good at it. It does seem like he's declined just a little bit in that.
See, and that's kind of my point with Bregman is he is a fantastic player, and I would love to have him on my team. But you used a lot of ED when you talked about him. There was a lot of past tense. And I think for Bregman, there is a little bit too much time has passed since MVP candidate season to going into 2024 for me to, I mean, maybe if I put fucking Brent Rooker on this list, maybe Alex Bregman should make it. But I just think that there is too much time has passed when Bregman was an MVP candidate to going into 2024 for me to say that he can be an AL MVP more than Kyle Tucker, Altuve, and Yordan Alvarez, all who are on the same team.
I definitely agree. I think that at any given time he could be in that conversation, just because he is talented and he has the tools to do it. And obviously we've seen him do it before. Last 2 seasons he was 19th in MVP voting in 2022, 22nd in 2023. So he's still getting love and he's still having, good seasons, just not quite on that same level as of recent. But we'll digress from this topic and talk about some young guys, maybe some guys that haven't even seen the league yet.
I really had to research whenever I was.
I didn't have to do too much research, but I got 2 guys that I wasn't expecting in my research. First of them, obviously I didn't have to do any research for him. Evan Carter is the guy. I think he's second in odds, only behind Jackson Holiday.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, he's that high.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Evan Carter's the real fucking deal.
Good for him. I mean, if that postseason performance can continue into the start of 2024, he might have it.
Okay, so some books actually have him as the favorite.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that.
Interesting. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up this list. So DraftKings, which is what I'll primarily go off of when it comes to their odds for futures. DraftKings Sportsbook has Jackson Holiday at plus 250, Evan Carter at plus 300, and then Evan Carter's teammate, Wyatt Langford, who I really like.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He's plus 600. And then right after him, another guy on my list, which is Nolan Shanuel at plus 750. So you've got 3 guys in this division that are top 4 in MVP, Rookie of the Year odds.
Yeah, and what I like going forward for the Rangers, imagine an outfield with both Langford and Carter out there.
And Adolis Garcia.
I love that.
Yeah, it looks good for them. Another guy I've got, though, maybe not a lot of people talking about this guy, Spencer Arrighetti. I really like him a lot.
He's on my list, too.
He's a fantastic guy who could come up and be a big impact pitcher for the Astros. We kind of talked about how, the latter half of that rotation with Javier and Hunter Brown and J.P. Sears, it's not exactly set in stone. And I think Spencer Arrighetti has the chance to make some things happen. In spring training, he's made 1 appearance, 2 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts. Only allowed 1 batter to reach base in those 2 innings. He's 24 years old. I really like what he has to offer, and could be a good young half if you pair him with Hunter Brown in that rotation. On top of that,
I mean, he's already better than Carlos Rodon right now.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like leaps and bounds better than Alek Manoah. So he's in a good position there.
Oh, no, not the Alek Manoah.
We're getting started early. He didn't have a good start to spring training.
We love cyberbullying at Second and Short. Only for Alex Manoah, though.
only athletes. We don't cyberbully.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Non-athletic regular people? NARPs. Yeah.
Civilians?
We don't bully. Yeah. We don't bully NARPs. I've also got Emerson Hancock on this list. The only issue could be that there's not a spot for him in this rotation. That could be the biggest problem for Emerson Hancock.
Sure, yeah.
Because we already talked about him, but Bryce Miller and Brian Wu are great. So, unfortunately, the most likely scenario where Emerson Hancock gets a chance is if somebody gets hurt.
Which is always a possibility.
Yeah, of course. Anybody that I haven't said that you've got your eye on? I've got one other guy, but I'd like you to go ahead and pull up some stats on them.
There were only 3. I got Jacob Melton. He's an outfielder on the Astros. I read up on him. Sounds like he's got some good things going for him. Ben Joyce could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's, mega gasoline.
Yeah.
Mega gasoline.
Is he still eligible?
With the Angels.
I didn't realize it.
That is what I
Okay,
read up on. Yeah.
gotcha.
And then there's also a relief pitcher, Mason Miller. I read that he has a lot of injury issues. He's a very hard throwing relief pitcher, but if he can stay healthy, I think he could probably work his way into some rotation or some bullpen.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like delaying myself right now. This guy that I had, oh, okay, he got traded away. I didn't even realize. Never mind, I don't have him anymore. Um,
Oh, Mason Miller's on the A's. I couldn't remember who he played for.
yes,
He's an A's closer. Yeah.
yes. One of the guys I had, I didn't realize he got traded to the White Sox. So maybe I'll talk about him in the next episode. But it's Prelander Berroa. Berroa. Berroa.
Oh,
I don't know how to say it.
is he Hispanic?
Yeah, he's from Santo Domingo.
Ah,
Um, yeah, that's my list there. Yeah, we hit all the bases there. Um, all right. Any other things we want to bring up for the AL West before we move on to the Premier League?
yeah. I mean, when I was making this list, I didn't really think it was going to be that interesting until you and I started talking about it. I really think there's you know maybe just a little bit less than infinite ways this division could go in, and that's
Certainly.
always fun. Especially since our teams aren't in it, we can just laugh at the chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we get to do as Braves and Yankees fans for the AL West. So, yeah, super excited for this one.
Yeah, very much. And we have the AL Central to look forward to, which I do think could get interesting. If you've been listening to the Monday episodes, you'll know that me and Colin have been very particular in favoring one specific AL Central team that you maybe weren't thinking about if you haven't paid attention this offseason. Nonetheless, let's talk about some soccer. Obviously, don't have any Champions League to talk about because we kind of spoiled that last week. We do have the Premier League to talk about though, and we'll start off light. We'll start off light. Fulham versus Brighton going down this weekend. These two teams in interesting positions in their own rights. Fulham, a team that could certainly use some help. They're sitting in 12th place right now with only 32 points, but they're on interesting form. They beat Manchester United last weekend.
Wild game.
They
Wild
lost to
fucking game.
Villa the week before. And then, before that, just some average results against kind of bottom half teams. Fulham is odd, but Brighton may be in a weirder position from what I would have anticipated out of them. Going into this season, I thought they were a contender for the top four. They had some fantastic stuff going for them, but they also have always been and possibly always will be a candidate to lose all of their best young players in any given transfer window. And that's exactly what happened this summer. Now they find
Yep.
themselves seventh place, which is nothing to scoff at this season. With 39 points, but they had a draw versus Everton last week, a big old win over Sheffield United 2 weeks ago, which nobody is surprised by. But like the week before that, a loss to Tottenham. You beat Crystal Palace. You lose to Luton Town a couple of weeks ago. About a month
Yeah.
ago now, they lost 4-0 to Luton Town. There's a lot of question marks surrounding Brighton and Fulham right now, but it just seems like they're so all over the place. It's like, yeah, we'll beat up on some bad teams, we'll lose to some good teams, or we'll beat some good teams and we'll lose to some bad teams, just back and forth all the whole time. But
Yeah.
despite that, there's 7 points separating these two teams.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get it, but I like Fulham in this matchup, and I want to talk about this game against Manchester United. So your first goal came from Bassi in the 65th minute. Then Harry Maguire, in the 89th minute will equalize the game. But here comes Alex Iwobi, the failed Arsenal winger, will win the game for Fulham in the 90th minute, just a minute after Harry Maguire tried to be the hero. And look, this Fulham team can compete. They're weird because, I think they're lower in the table than Brighton is, but Fulham seems way more consistent than Brighton is.
Yeah.
I would say Fulham will play every team very tough. No matter how good the team is or bad the team is, Fulham just plays them hard. And I kind of like the form that Fulham's been in right now. It's nothing like ridiculously amazing. Let me see here. Crap. Hang on. Uh-oh. Yeah, so they're coming off of that 2-1 win against United. Their game before that was a 2-1 loss to Aston Villa, and then a 3-1 win against Bournemouth. And then 2 draws back to back, 2-2 against Burnley, 0-0 against Everton. So Fulham are looking better than the start of the season. They're
Definitely.
on the up. And then, like you said, Brighton is if you took a pen on a paper and just scrabbled. There is no predicting them. There's no I don't get it. They can blow out teams, they can get blown
Yeah.
out. Really nothing in between.
Yeah, it's odd, and I think for Brighton, the biggest thing that's not quite playing in their favor is injuries. You've still got Solly March out. He's probably not going to make it back for the weekend. Kaoru Matoma is still out and won't be back until like the end of the season. Yao Pedro is going to be out until late March. These are key players in this team. Dating back, if really the whole season, these have been key players in this team. And if you look at that, I know it's an FA Cup match midweek that they played against Wolves, where they lost 1-0. This was a weird look for this team.
Yeah.
To have Ansu Fati up front, who has done absolutely nothing in his time here now this season. You have Simon Adengra, who is a great young player. He played pretty well, all things considered, but not the best. You had Facundo Bunyate, who at times is great. At times he looks like a 19-year-old with very little experience, and that's what he looked like in this game. I think if Brighton has any chance, it's when they're healthy, and right now they're just not. So I'm going to go Fulham's way, and I'm going to take them 2-1.
Yeah, I'm actually also going to take them full one, but I just wanted to bring up one last point. So I love Bonanotte's last name.
Yes.
It is literally good night in Italian. It's spelled the same way in everything, I'm pretty sure. And I'm taking 2-1 Brighton. Very
Yeah.
random what I just brought up, but 2-1 Fulham. Sorry. 2-1
Gotcha.
Fulham.
All right. Well, let's talk Newcastle versus
Actually,
Wolves.
wait.
Oh, sorry.
Hang on, I'm sorry. It is against Brighton, so if we're gonna pick Fulham to win, I'm gonna go 4-1 Fulham.
Okay, I've got 2-1. You've got 4-1. That's all you.
I'm gonna go 4-1.
Let's talk about Wolves versus Newcastle. Oddly enough, Newcastle has absolutely sucked to the point that Wolves overtook them in the table, and Newcastle now sits in 10th place. I am not happy about this, obviously, but Wolves have been on pretty good form. You look back in their past 5, you go back to the beginning of the month, they lost a real close one to Manchester United on a Thursday where you had a Kobe Mainu winner in like the 90th plus 7, something ridiculous like that. But then the weekend after, you see them with a 4-2 win over Chelsea. They lose to Brentford, of all teams. But then the past 2 weekends, you get a win over Tottenham and a win over Sheffield United. All of a sudden, you find yourself with 38 points in 9th place. Honestly, a win this weekend probably could put you in 7th place.
Yeah.
It's
That's crazy
insane
for
because we
Wolves.
were talking all offseason about how Wolves was selling off all of their talent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they're up here.
Did,
It's crazy.
did we think they were gonna get relegated?
Probably.
I can't remember if when we did our table, did we ever do a Premier League table, or did we
I
do
think
like
we
teams
did.
that we thought were gonna get relegated?
I think we did. Maybe not a full table, but I think we
Yeah.
did like a preview where we were like, these are the top 4. These are the relegated teams. These teams are making Europa League.
Yeah.
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 I don't think we did a full table, but nonetheless, we certainly weren't thinking highly of Wolves.
No.
And we definitely were
Not at
thinking
all.
highly of Newcastle, who is the team I obviously elected to root for going into this season. And look, I couldn't be more happy with what I've gotten to see with Newcastle. It's just the results aren't quite there. And obviously, health and just availability of our top players has been the biggest issue, dating back to Sandro Tonali, like 2 weeks into the season. Like, it's just been
Yeah.
a huge issue. It doesn't help that Nick Pope got hurt going into Christmas, that Christmas time where you play a ton of matches, and we still won't have him for another month. It doesn't help that, Joe Ellington is out until May and Callum Wilson is out till May. That's just killing us. Like, it's, we lost playmaking in the midfield and we lost a goal scoring option up top. At times we were missing Isaac and we were missing, Sven Botman for an extended period of time. It's just been availability, and it's killing them right now. You had a midweek match against Blackburn that ended up going to penalties that you won, luckily. But the 4-1 loss to Arsenal last weekend was embarrassing. And the 2-2 draw with Bournemouth before that was equally as embarrassing. So I would just love to see a shred of consistency from Newcastle United, and that's what's going to lead me to this next thing I'm going to say, and it's that I think Eddie Howe might get fired. And I don't want that to be the case. Don't get me wrong. I think it's just that, and I saw a video of these guys talking about it, and they laid it out very well. And they see it as he's kind of the gatekeeper for Newcastle's potential as a big club. Because what he has done with this Newcastle team and what he brought them from is nothing short of amazing. They made the Champions League. They were a top 4 team last season. And they're bankrolled by these Saudi billionaires that can bring in and export so much talent, and they already have. But I think this team, because of the money and the talent, has a much higher expectation than what I think Eddie Howe can reasonably do with this team year to year. I think he does a fantastic job of grabbing a team that's perennially bottom half of the table, getting relegated up and down for the course of 20 years, and bringing them up to a point where they made the Champions League. But now they find themselves in this position where it doesn't seem like they're getting better. And I think part of that has to do with Eddie Howe.
Yeah, that's fair. But I don't think I think the Newcastle injuries have been absolutely killer to them this season, though. Truthfully, I would say that's the biggest thing holding them back, in my opinion. Maybe if Newcastle wants to become a bigger club, maybe you look at bigger manager options other than Eddie Howe. Maybe like Tuchel. Eddie Howe's on his way out. Maybe they bring Tuchel or somebody like that in, or maybe something crazy like a Jose Mourinho. But 10th place just does not do this Newcastle team justice. They should not be holding hands with Chelsea all season long, because our teams have been literally 10th and 11th for what feels like 4 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been ridiculous. But yeah, I liked all the points that you made. This is a very different Newcastle team, despite them being 10th in the Premier League. They were in the Champions League this year, and I know they got knocked out, but damn it, they did some damage.
Yeah, for sure.
And they competed, which is more than what you could ask for, I feel like. And they're only going to get better from here.
Yeah.
I like that. But and on the Wolves side, really nothing much to add. They are on a pretty decent form right now. Winners of their last 3. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 5-1. No, 4-1 in their last 5. Sorry, can't count there. And they're looking good, and they're hitting Newcastle at a very weird time right now. I don't really like Newcastle edging past Blackburn only on penalties.
Yeah.
I felt like that should be a game where they could win like maybe 2-0, something kind of more comfortable than penalties. Arsenal is just really good this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Losing 4-1 to Arsenal is tough, but as a Newcastle fan, with the defense last year, you would expect maybe a closer scoreline, I think. And then, like you said, the tie against Bournemouth, I think, is worse than the loss against Arsenal, for sure. I think I'm going to go 1-1 draw.
Okay.
Newcastle Wolves, yeah.
I'm going to take Newcastle 2-1. I still think we have the players that we need to go out and win games, and I trust that they can do that, because there are still great players in this lineup. Anthony Gordon is one of my favorite players to watch this entire season. Alexander Isaac, despite his shortcomings, does score goals. He's got 10 goals this season. And as much as I hate Miguel Almiron, he can hold his own. Bruno Guimaraes just does his thing week after week. Lewis Miley is becoming a player that I've grown to like more and more throughout this season. I certainly was critical early on of us having a 17-year-old in the midfield. But he's definitely, growing on me a little bit. But I'd love to say it'd be 2-0, but we haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 matches. So I don't think that trend is going to change. As much as I have been happy with Martin Dubravka in goal, he is no Nick Pope.
Yeah, no, the goalie depth that y'all have is actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty nice because I'm pretty sure the next keeper in the depth chart is Loris Kyrus. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. He played in a Champions League final. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, don't want to talk about how he did and what he did in particular.
Yeah. That was actually horrible. Like the fact that happened to him, and then the next season he's playing for Beşiktaş in Turkey. If he fell off a cliff.
Yeah,
really sad.
Yeah,
really sad.
Crazy. All right, well let's talk about the Manchester Derby. I got some fun facts that we could go through here. I like to do this for historic rivalries. So the first matchup between these two teams was the 12th of November in 1881. It was actually between West Gorton, which would become Man City, and Newton Heath, which would become Manchester United. And promptly, Manchester United won it 3-0, as they did for many years. They won this matchup. The first matchup as Manchester City and Manchester United was Christmas Day of 1902, which ended in a 1-1 draw. This one's pretty interesting. Peter Schmeichel played 8 seasons for Manchester United and 1 season for Manchester City and was never on the losing side of this rivalry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great Dane.
Pretty crazy.
Literally.
Yeah. The overall record in the 190 matches played in all competitions between these two is Manchester United's 77 wins, Manchester City's 60 wins, and 53 draws between them. This is pretty crazy. In the last 10 years, Manchester City they've turned a 20 goal deficit down to just 1. A 1 goal deficit to Manchester United in the history of this matchup. So if City can win by 2, they will hold the advantage in all-time goals in the Manchester Derby. Other things, of course, being just the famous incidents that have occurred in this rivalry. In the past, 10 or so years, we've had some very famous ones, including Marouane Fellaini headbutting Sergio Aguero. We had the 2011 matchups, which had some maybe of the most iconic from this rivalry, being the Wayne Rooney bicycle kick in the first match of that season. And
How do you do that?
Nice, barefoot too. That's free, people. That's free. That's what you get here. You get free feet. Exactly. And then the second matchup, the second matchup of the 2011 campaign, we had Mario Balotelli's "Why Always Me" celebration, where he pulled his jersey over it and he had the "Why Always Me" shirt on. Look, this is just the rivalry of all rivalries, honestly. And what's kind of crazy is that it wasn't that much of a hatred between these two teams until more recently. This is a relatively friendly rivalry. It wasn't even really a rivalry. It was just two teams from the same area. A lot of I think what I read was before World War II, these two teams, their fans would just go to both teams' games.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they were just supporting the city. And then after a while, it got divided, and then it really got to be a rivalry in the time during Sir Alex Ferguson kind of taking over at Manchester United. So it's pretty interesting. But down to this year's matchup, it is on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And Manchester United has a list of players out. And that includes the likes of Rasmus Højlund, Luke Shaw, Lisandro Martinez, Anthony Martial, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Quite a few guys still out. And then for City, their only notable is Oh, excuse me. Josko Vardiol, who's out for a couple more weeks, and then Jack Grealish, who's a little banged up. He got subbed out in their game against Luton Town, like midway through the match. Didn't seem very happy. So I'm not too sure what happened to him. But yeah, man, Manchester City. Do we need to talk about Luton Town midweek?
I I mean,
Oh,
Erling Haaland should be
yeah.
arrested.
Yeah, hat trick by the 40th minute and 5 goals in the 58th.
Yeah, all
Oh
on Tim
man.
Krul.
Yeah, I wish actually Luke, go ahead, go on the website I use is FOTMob, FOTMOB.com. Okay, and go just find the Luton Town versus Man City one. And you're going to see an amazing visual of Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne and what they did in this game, uh, where the assists are always on the left of the player's like profile, the goals are always on the right, and they actually made them overlap with how many they had.
Oh
Yeah,
no!
Erling Haaland's 5 goals, Kevin De Bruyne's 4 assists in this match. It's absolutely ridiculous. You had an assist from Bernard
Was
Silva and John Stones as well, and a goal from Mateo Kovacic.
okay, yeah, here we go. Um, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it just wasn't fair.
No,
As soon as the
nope,
whistle blew, it was not fair.
no. Because this is like a realistic lineup that Manchester City would put out in a regular league match, despite the fact that they didn't start Ruben Diaz in this game. Um, they didn't start Rodri in this game.
I mean,
No Phil Foden, no Julian Alvarez. Like they didn't even start Ederson in goal.
no, no. I mean, you had the likes of Reese Burke, Minji, Amari Bell defending Erling Haaland. Who
Yeah,
are those people?
and like, how old is Tim Krul? 35-year-old Tim Krul in goal.
Yeah,
That man has been
crazy.
around.
He has.
Oh man, yeah. So Manchester City
Unbelievable.
is on pretty good form, I'd say. I think we talked about them a couple weeks ago. They're still unbeaten since whenever we said that. Um, they've obviously got the Prem's leading goal scorer in Erling Haaland with 17, a measly 17. Nowhere near what he did last season, but it's still ridiculous. He's also assisted 5 goals, which is kind of crazy. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Also, how is Rasmus Højlund already Manchester United's leading goal scorer in the Prem?
Is he really?
That was 7.
Oh my goodness, dude. They don't have it, man.
Yeah,
They
no,
don't
they
have it
they
together.
they can't score goals. Let's talk about Manchester United for a second because they've been kind of just squeaking by and staying pretty good. Despite the
Well,
fact that they're
what's
just winning
crazy
close
is
ones.
yeah, Fulham was their first loss since December 23rd.
Yeah,
Or December 30th. My bad. Um but in between there they've had like a 3-4 win against Wolves, a 2-1 win over Luton. Like it's been really close for them
yeah, yeah.
in a lot of games,
They're a
like you
weird
said.
case. Like the game they played midweek against Nottingham Forest, your only goal came from Casemiro in the 89th minute, despite the fact that you started Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, Anthony, Scott McTominay, who at one point was their leading goal scorer in the Premier League. Um, it, like this is an actual Manchester United team that I would expect to see playing on a Saturday in the Prem. And they put up one
Yeah, it's
goal on Nottingham Forest, who honestly, Nottingham Forest didn't put out one of their best lineups they could, and only beat them with an 89th minute goal from a guy who's really not much of a goal scorer in Casemiro.
on top of that, Manchester United had 20 shots in this game. Nottingham Forest had 16. Manchester United had 7 shots on target. Nottingham Forest only had 5. But the
Yeah.
possession was a 60-40 difference there. Um, all of that to say, Manchester United are very lucky that the unlikely hero Casemiro, listen to
Nice.
that rhyme, somehow gets a goal in the 89th minute. You are extremely lucky not to have gone into extra time and found yourself in a trap game here.
Definitely.
If you're Manchester United,
Definitely.
is the way I see it. So,
Nonetheless,
yeah.
what I expect at Etihad Stadium on Sunday is nothing short of a bloodbath. Um, I can't trust Marcus Rashford to score goals. That's for sure. I can't
No.
trust any of them to score goals, especially with Højlund out, who was your hottest player for the past month.
It's Scott McTominay.
Yeah, he's certainly cooled off.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
yeah, I can't assume otherwise than Manchester City is going to dominate. So I'm going to take Man City 4-0.
Yeah, and I want to look at it a little bit closer before I give my score prediction. Their last two games, obviously the midweek against Nottingham Forest, which we just talked about. Your one goal against Fulham was from Harry Maguire. Your
Yeah.
one goal against Nottingham Forest is from Casemiro. Before that, against Luton Town, Rasmus Højlund was both of your goals. He's hurt. So,
Yeah.
Manchester City 4, United 0.
All right. I like that we're in agreement on this absolute beatdown that Man City is about to put on Man United.
But it's weird because United have been in the best form, but I feel like a lot of their form has been Rasmus Højlund kind of, just getting goals here and there. And
Yeah.
if he's not there, you cannot rely on Casemiro and Harry Maguire to get you goals.
Definitely not. Definitely not Harry
I mean,
Maguire.
duh.
Harry Maguire
Yeah,
would trip over his
but-
own feet.
And I think that's honestly looking at it, like I said, even deeper. Manchester United's wingers have done fuck all. And as far as
Garnacho
goals for
hasn't
them
done a
this season.
thing since he scored that bicycle kick.
No, and Anthony just does this.
Yeah,
He just spins.
yeah.
And next thing you know, the ball's out of bounds.
Yeah, no,
And it's
Anthony
off of him.
treats the right side of the field like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, man.
ridiculous. We do have some other pretty good matchups this weekend. We've got clicked on the wrong button. We've got Brentford Chelsea, which unfortunately could get interesting. Everton
Yeah.
West Ham, definitely an interesting one because Everton would be in such a different place without that 10-point deduction. Man,
Yeah,
they're in
definitely.
15th right now. If they didn't get that 10-point deduction, they would have the same amount of points as Chelsea.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. You've also got Fulham Brighton, Newcastle Wolves, Nottingham Forest Liverpool, which I can't imagine goes the way of Forest. Spurs Crystal Palace, Luton versus Aston Villa, Burnley versus Bournemouth, Man City versus Man United, and then on Monday, Sheffield United versus Arsenal, which I can only assume will be the highest goal scored of this entire season by Arsenal.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because Sheffield United, wow. Yeah, they have allowed the most goals in the Prem by a cool 8. Yeah, a negative 44 goal differential for them. Not good, in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah, all thanks to Newcastle completely fucking flattening them.
Yeah, that kind of got it all
earlier
started.
this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've gotten flattened quite a few other times. A lot of 5-0 losses for them. It's very weird. But yeah, Sheffield
man.
United. Honestly, a sight to see because the other team's gonna score some goals. That's for sure. All right.
Definitely.
Well, that rounds it out. You've got Champions League matches next week, but if you want to hear what we think about them, go back to last week's episode because once again I did it prematurely. I do know we will be talking about the Champions League next week. At the end of the week, those matches will conclude. We'll know half of our teams that are making it to the next round, the quarterfinals.
Exciting.
Whatever. And then we'll also be previewing who will join them in the quarterfinals. So look forward to that. Of course, we have Premier League matches next weekend. I'm pretty sure. Once again, I don't look at calendars. There might be an international break that I don't know about, but I'm pretty sure there's not another international break till April. Nonetheless, let's get into our favorite segment in the show's history. As we often say, I think it's questions time. What do you think?
Oh, let's do it.
All right. Well, let's
I'm
start off
excited.
with Ethan's question because I love this so much. It's a very funny question. What are y'all's respective welcome to the league moments? Now, I'll give you some backstory behind asking this question. This is the question that every single former or current professional athlete gets asked on every single podcast they go on.
Yeah.
And I hate it
Yeah.
so much. It's always
You don't
just
like
like
this question?
it's I hate it for like just an athlete. I think it's funny when we do it in a satirical context like this. It's it's always just like, man, KD put up 35 on me every time.
Yeah, that's
I think
fair.
KD is
That's
giving
fair.
out 50% of the league's current welcome to the league moments. I think LeBron has probably done 45% of the other ones. Like, it's always the same.
Kobe.
And like Kobe. Like every single one of these guys has the same exact story with a different player. In the NFL,
Yeah.
it's just like, man, this guy hit me really hard. It's just like, I
Yeah.
know you're playing football. I think. Well, okay. Well, let's do this as like our first welcome to the league moment with this podcast. What was your welcome to
I
the
would
league
say
moment?
my first episode, coming home from Christmas break in would it be 2023, right? No, 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. I just didn't everybody talks sports and every sports fan likes to think that they have a good knowledge of sports. But when you try to turn that into something a little bit more formal in the
Yeah.
form of a podcast, you realize that you just did not take enough notes and you just don't know like
Yeah.
certain offensive or defensive linemen, or coordinators here and there. I would say that first episode, just the depth that, sports can really have.
Yeah.
It really surprised me.
Yeah,
So,
because
that would be my welcome to the
I,
league.
I will say, like, going into doing a podcast, it was like, yeah, I've watched so much, daytime sports TV, but
Yeah.
if you watch First Take, it's 10 minutes about one thing, and it's a different thing every single time. They're not trying to talk, they're not trying to fill 30 minutes to an hour about what's going to happen this weekend in the NFL. It's just not what they do.
Yeah.
Even a show like the Pat McAfee show, which goes on 3, sometimes 4, 5 hours in the middle of the day, they're bringing on guests like every 30 minutes because they got to fill time.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
doing a podcast like this, like, I went into it being like, oh, we're just having a conversation about sports. And then I realized, like, okay, it needs some structure to it. Now, I think we're more comfortable with it. I could write a prep sheet. We do this for the Sunday episodes all the time. I write a prep sheet. Me and Colin don't take any notes. We sit down right before we do it. We read the prep sheet for the last time, take a couple of notes, and we get started. Like, it's not that serious. And it's really just about the conversation. But I think early on, for sure, it was it was tough.
Yeah, and it really made me appreciate live broadcasting too.
Yeah.
From like, your guys like Al Michaels and Collinsworth.
Definitely.
They are having to do like kind of what we do.
Okay,
Not
well,
to say like what we do is
I'm gonna
that
give
good,
them-
but
I'm gonna say something. I'm not trying to take away from the greats of broadcasting, but people take the notes for them. And they
Really?
and they also like these guys do their own notes for sure, but they have a media guide sitting in front of them with all the
Oh,
information
I
about
didn't
every
know
player that you could imagine.
wow.
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah.
I always wondered, it's like, how did they know that this left
No.
guard in high school like had to get rid of his kidney
Yeah,
and they're gonna
exactly.
bring that up like this?
And also,
Like,
they've got a
why? I
producer
don't-
in their ear, telling them
Yeah.
what they should and to talk about. And, oh, we're going to transition to this graphic. So bring this up, and then we'll transition to this graphic. So it's like,
Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
yeah.
Did not know that.
For a
Wow.
long time, I didn't know that. But after taking a couple of my classes at KSU about like sports and media and stuff, picked up on that. It's very interesting. You can actually go out and find like every NFL team and MLB teams like media guides and game notes and everything. It's pretty cool. Nonetheless, yeah, I think my welcome to the league moment for this podcast was the first time I didn't click record, and we did an entire episode. I think that was with me and Colin the first time it happened. And I felt so bad because Colin was filling in. Like, he hadn't even become a full-time host yet. So yeah, that one caused the first solo episode, which I've certainly got better at them, but that first one was so difficult.
Really, recording the solo episode?
Oh yeah, the first time I did it was so difficult because like I'm so used to like
great.
I think I did a good job, but also like, and it also wasn't video either. Like, it was still just audio only. So I was like super, when I went back and edited it and like listened to it, I was like super like nitpicking everything. But yeah, I obviously I've gotten much better at it now. But that was certainly like okay, like this is a very difficult part of this when you're the one that fucks up and you got to make up for it. Because like we went like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then Colin was going to a Braves game as soon as we got done recording, and I texted him while he's on his way. I'm like, dude, you'll never believe this. So yeah, that was definitely. But let's get into Nathan's questions. This one, he didn't choose a language this time. I guess he tried to use Macedonian, and it didn't work. So now it says so many questions.
Find me somebody that speaks Macedonian. Even from Macedonia.
Yeah. Alexander the Great, maybe. He's from Macedonia. Yeah. All right. What is your favorite pet that you've had in your life?
Oh, man.
I already know mine.
Are we really going to talk about pets?
Yeah.
Pets can get sad.
It does get sad. For sure.
Probably, I had a cat, Elsa, who ran away and obviously probably died after she ran away. Yeah. But she was like a dog. I mean, like, you could pick her up, do anything. She was amazing. Most loving cat.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, mine was Teddy. Our dog. Teddy. Yeah.
Okay.
He was awesome. Big ass dog.
What kind of dog?
He was a Border Collie Terrier mix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that man had some fucking energy.
Yeah, Border Collies can roam fields.
And like this dog was just like a mess, dude. And like his favorite thing was escape through the front door if we ever opened it, and then run around for a couple hours, make sure to go through the creek right before you come back to the house. So, yeah, I loved that dog so much. He was great. All right.
I wanted to point out that Elsa is not from Frozen.
Okay, I was about to ask. I was going to ask that, and then I forgot.
Yeah, we got it from Born Free. It was about a tiger handler or a lion handler. Gotcha. Sorry, and one of the lions that she got close to was Elsa.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. This is an odd way to phrase this. If you woke up a legal billionaire, I don't know why would I be waking up as an illegal billionaire? I don't know about that one. Nathan, I'll need some clarification on why you put it that way.
Are we drug traffickers?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even think I could, if I tried, run a $1 billion illegal operation. So if you woke up as a legal billionaire, what would be the first thing you do / buy?
I think my fun answer would be I'd probably get like house and a car.
Yep.
Right. I'm fine with clothes right now, but my unfun answer would be trying to research ways to turn that billion into more than $1 billion.
Yeah.
Trying to sustain that money. Maybe buy some property, do something like that.
Yeah, I think Airbnb. The first thing I do is I hire somebody to manage that money.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I'll be like, okay, look, I got $1 billion. I need you to figure all the shit out that's going to make me keep $1 billion. And I'm going to take a couple $100 million and just fuck around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to probably start my own production company, get this, bankroll second and short as like a as an entertainment company, probably.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. All right. Next thing, I guess my boring or my fun answer or whatever would be find property in the middle of nowhere and just create like a fun house for myself.
A compound.
Yeah,
All your buddies.
that's all I've ever wanted. I have a reminder in my phone for like a couple years down the road that is just buy property in Wyoming with the boys. Dude, you can just
like
buy like acres in Wamsutter, Wyoming for $18,000 and like you just get to do things with it. There is nothing out there, not a grocery store in miles, but the idea is that if I have a ton of money, I buy this land for $18,000, I get some people out there to build up, get a couple houses there, maybe, get my helicopter license, I guess. It'd probably be the easiest way to get to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Put down a helipad, everything. So, yeah, I would love to just buy property in Wyoming and just fuck around.
Dude, I would get the property next to you and build a Walmart.
Fuck yeah. That'd be awesome. Imagine. We just build a Walmart, dude. Fuck it. All right, let's see. Next one. Do you think we will see a 400 strikeout season or a 70 home run season next? So 400 strikeouts isn't, I don't think that's ever been done. 70 home runs has been. So I think I'd have to say 70 just because probability. I don't know, man. That's tough. I think 400 strikeouts is possible, but not for the modern day pitcher, at least in the way we see it. Like if it was like back in the day where guys were just like, you had one starting pitcher, that was your rotation, and he threw 150 pitches an outing. Yeah. Maybe. Maybe. You had guys throwing like 22 inning complete games back in the day.
Do you think any pitcher in today's league could have a 400 strikeout season? Any pitcher?
Yeah, Spencer Strider. He's a strikeout merchant.
I was thinking him.
Yeah.
But that's fucking 102 more strikeouts than what he had last year.
Yeah.
Roughly. That's crazy. But definitely 70 home runs. These kids today are raking.
Yeah. I think the home runs is definitely the more feasible one. Who will lead the league in touchdown passes next season, and how many will they have?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Shit. Do you have a guy?
I've got like three potential answers.
Who are yours?
Patrick Mahomes, just what he does.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow. I think he's gonna have a good comeback from this injury.
I'm actually gonna go out on a whim. I would go Josh Allen, and I think he could throw like.
My only
46.
issue with Josh Allen is that he does like to run them in sometimes.
That is true. Yeah, same with Jalen Hurts. You couldn't say him either. I could see Josh Allen or Burrow.
Oh, here's an underrated one. Aaron Rodgers.
Forgot about him.
Yeah. I keep forgetting he plays football.
Yeah, I mean, what could he do? I mean, his last season with Green Bay,
Aaron Rodgers could still throw like 40 touchdowns.
You really think so?
Yeah, dude. Maybe I'm just, I don't know.
I mean, I love him.
False confidence in Aaron Rodgers, but like your passing touchdown leader this season. Jesus, it's fucking ad. Hold on. Your passing touchdown leader was Dak Prescott with 36.
Was it really Dak?
And right behind him was Jordan Love with 32.
Wow.
Yeah. I think honestly, those two guys could probably be in the conversation for 40.
I could see that.
I think, you know what? I'm going to go with Jordan Love, and I'm going to say he's going to throw 41 touchdowns next season.
And as soon as you saw Jordan Love's name, I knew that was going to be your guy.
Hey, I was shitting
Oh
on
man,
Josh Allen. He threw 29 last season. So,
and it's kind of
it's pretty good.
meh.
Put him 5th, tied with Tua.
So do guys not get 50 touchdowns anymore? I used to think that in like the
They definitely
Manning
used to.
Brady era that used to
Well,
happen more often.
2021, Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford both broke 40.
Wow. I wonder what happened the past 2 years then. Why was
Yeah,
it
because I think
36 that led the
2022 it
league?
was 2022 Patrick Mahomes threw 41. Um, and he was leaps and bounds better than just about everybody in 2022.
Yeah.
Let's see, 2019 Lamar had 36 and he led the league.
Wow.
That was the year Jameis went cool 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Okay, yeah. So
And then had that laser guy.
Patrick Mahomes back in 2018. This is when it really started for him. He threw 50.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Solid.
guys are doing that anymore though. I know that was only 6 years ago, but I don't know if guys still do that. 50's a
Yeah,
lot, man.
I don't know either. 50 is a lot.
He's
but it's
definitely not
been
doing it
done-
now. Not with this team.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, considering Travis Kelce probably caught all of those, maybe, actually, no, Tyreek Hill was there. Tyreek Hill caught 12 of those 50. Travis Kelce caught 10 of them. So that knocked out just about
22.
half. All right, let's get into the next question, though. How many tries does Wait, why did he put a question? Oh, okay. This is interesting. So Nathan must have asked Colin a question. Colin gave an answer. So how many tries do we think Colin needs to hit a home run over the Green Monster? Colin says 3.
I was actually thinking 3.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, he's going to need a good pitch, and he's going to need one that he can get under because it's hard to just naturally hit a home run over the Green
I would
Monster
say
without getting under it a little bit.
At the most, 8 tries.
Okay, I'd say at the most
If he
10.
just keeps messing up.
Just in
Yeah.
case the pitching's not great. I'm going to assume we're doing batting practice here.
Yeah.
And I think you have to get used to hitting there. If you're trying to hit a home run over the Green Monster, you're probably going to fail quite a few times because you're thinking too much about the launch angle. Especially if you're like Colin was like a talented hitter. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm not going to say was. That's mean. I'm going to say Colin is a talented hitter. But it takes a lot of talent to even be in a situation to be hitting home runs over the Green Monster. So
That is true.
yeah, I'd say it'd take a little more than 3, maybe, but that's logical. I think he could.
Yeah.
All right. The next and final question is: how many walks will Juan Soto have this season?
Let me.
So I'm pulling it up right
amount?
now. So last year he had 132. His career best is 145.
Fuck me. I'm gonna go. New team. I don't think he goes under 115, but I'm gonna hang around like a 1 to 15. Somewhere in there.
I'm gonna go for 120.
Okay.
I think in the ballpark he's playing in, he might start off a little like jumpy.
Swingy.
Yeah, I think short porch, man. As a left-handed hitter, it's enticing.
For sure.
All right. Well, that does it for questions time. Yeah, that's the episode. Luke, how are you feeling about going into this weekend?
Feeling great. It's actually the start of my spring break. I know that we don't
Nice.
have spring breaks that coincide. I think yours
Yeah.
is not next week, but next week, next week.
Yeah,
Double next.
it starts, I guess if you consider Saturday as the start of it, it'd be the 9th.
Yeah.
Reminder, there will be no episode the Monday of the week of March 10th. So no episode Monday, March 11th. Me and Colin are going to take ourselves a little break. Considering I have done, quite a few episodes since July 4th when I took my last break from this. But
Jesus.
Yeah, well, since me and Colin are going to be up in the mountains from the 8th to the 12th, so um, it would be kind of difficult to put out a podcast, considering we won't have much internet connection,
That
and
is
we
fair.
will be exhausted from playing a lot of disc golf. So, yeah,
Also
so
try to do like a fireside podcast, like
I
up in the mountains,
I
little
think we might do a
cabin
little bit
setting.
of like behind the scenes filming, a little bit of like a vlog, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how we're feeling.
That'll be sick.
We'll see. Nonetheless, we'll get that content to you whenever you need it. We got you. So yeah, we've got episode Monday, of course, with me and Colin. Next Friday, but then that Monday after we are off, and then we'll come right back Friday, the 15th, with me and Luke. So a lot to look forward there. Luke, if you ever want to take, we could take a week off whenever you'd like. You've been on quite a few episodes consecutively now, so feel free. If we ever need to take a break,
It's
you just
just
let me know.
it's so routine.
I know,
It's
I
so
know.
routine, and I
Yeah,
just love it now.
that's fair.
It's in my schedule. It's honestly a part of my life.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
So I'm fine, man.
All right.
I love it.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will keep bringing you guys content. The best way to show your appreciation is if you're on YouTube, you should be liking, subscribing, commenting, turning on post notifications so you stay up to date with everything going up on the Second and Short channel. If you want to stay up to date with literally everything going on in Second and Short, you need to be following our social media accounts. You can get the links. All the usernames are right here. And you can, of course, go to the link tree for that. If you're listening to the podcast, pull over right now. Put on the blinker. Well, yeah, put on the blinker. Pull over to the side of the road. Put on the hazards. Take out your phone. Rate 5 stars and follow us on the podcast platform. If you're in
Then
class,
merge back
I guess
safely.
yes, merge back safely. Of course, check all your blind spots and your mirrors and all that. If you're sitting in class, ignore what your professor's saying. You're listening to a podcast
Oh,
anyway.
Fuck that.
And go ahead and rate 5 stars and follow us. Otherwise, you also need to join the subreddit, 2ND, AND short, and you can submit your questions for questions time. Just make sure they're submitted by about 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoons, and we'll get to them. So, with that being said, Luke, anything else for the people?
Nah, man, I'm ready to get out of here and get my spring break kicked off.
All right.
For
Well, you
sure.
enjoy your spring break. Me and Colin will see you guys on Monday. We'll both see you next week. Peace.